Hello everyone, welcome to the Ranting Shop. It's me, Melissa. Today we're going to be discussing Ready to Love, Season 8 or 9. At this one I'm confused. Episode 5. I think this one had to do with non-negotiables. So each person was tasked with verbalizing their non-negotiables to their potential love interest, right? So that's what it was about today. So we started off at the cliffhanger, and to no surprise to any of us, Red was sent home, right? So somebody was saying in the comments that they were kind of surprised that the show would choose to keep on a sexual deviant as opposed to just Red, who's just sensitive, I guess, But that's the nature of the show, and I feel like the producers partially have input as well as the contestants in who gets sent home, right? So Red gets sent home and Marvin is still there. Now I'm not quite sure what happens first, but let's just say I think it was the date with Janelle, Herbert and Quinton. So from the previews, we were led to believe that it was just a date between Janelle and her two strongest connections, but actually it ended up being a double date because Katarina showed up and Herbert announced that he has interest in Katarina. So now we see Janelle yet again in a competitive environment, and I feel like that is where we see who Janelle is as an individual, and based on her prior activities on social media, she's very competitive, and as much as she makes it seem like the men gravitate towards her, which they do because her strong interests do gravitate towards her, she makes it seem like she's not threatened by anybody else, but she really is. And you see that when Herbert shows his interest in Katarina, she has something like snacky to say. I mean, if it didn't bother you, you wouldn't make smart comments. You would let that ride off your back, but it bothers her, and she wants to make us believe that her weight doesn't affect her self-esteem and nothing affects her self-esteem, but I think it does. And somebody was saying that they think this was the scene that really catapulted the whole social media drama between Katarina and Janelle. And that could very well be the case, or maybe it was something that happened at the reunion and she felt the need to verbalize it. Who knows? But all in all, I thought that Janelle's behavior was despicable. And I feel as if, and somebody made a great point, they were saying like, okay, you have your issue with Katarina, why are you pulling other people into your mess? Like, for example, why are other people catching strays? People like Chris, who you allude to being gay, which is wrong and not your business to do. And people like Tequila, what did Tequila do with that situation? Although I heard that Tequila did pull up to defend Katarina if Janelle tried anything when she pulled up. I don't know, it was a whole mess. But as far as I'm concerned, it was a very despicable display, and I don't think anybody expected that from Janelle. So we were quite shocked when we saw that part of her. But let's move on. Alright, so then they go and play, I think, pickleball. But prior to that, they were just talking about their connection to Janelle and everything like that. We all hear that Quinton is very much interested in Janelle. But what we heard from Janelle when she spoke to Herbert was that Herbert seems like her number one connection and Quinton is her number two, right? So when they separated and they were each talking to they were talking to each other one-on-one, Janelle was telling Herbert, like, why is it that you are not calling me back? And why is it that you're taking so long to communicate with me out of this process? I mean, what's going on? And he was saying that, typically he takes his time, he's very slow. And then Janelle is like, but you're in this process and it's an accelerated process, so you need to move with the speed of the show. Which I agree with. I mean, the purpose of this show is for people to apply pressure. So for you to come on this show and not apply pressure and do what you typically do, I don't think that's the smart thing to do. I mean, if you're gonna continue doing what you typically do, you might as well have not came on the show. So he was saying to Janelle how he plans to be more proactive, because Janelle was like, other people are being proactive and technically we're all in competition for each other. So if you slack off and the other person is applying pressure, I'm gonna leave you in the dust and go for the person that seems like they want me more, which I agree with. And since this is a competition show where your longevity on the show depends on how strong your connections stay, I think I hope it changes his way of dealing or competing in this type of forum. So then we see that, Quentin is speaking to Katerina inside, and I don't know, like, it doesn't appear to me that Quentin is interested in Katerina at all. It looks as if Quentin, his eyes are only for Janelle, and I don't think he's interested in anybody else. And if anything proved that, it was this episode, sorry. So, Katerina trying to flirt, and it's like Quentin is just not picking it up. Like, he's so uninterested in Katerina, which is something Janelle did speak on. She said Katerina was interested in Quentin, but Quentin didn't reciprocate, and she was wondering if that's the reason why Katerina is mad at her. I don't think that's the reason. I think the reason is because you came and made something that was a small thing a big thing, so she addressed it and it became a big deal. So Lee was noticeably absent in this episode, I was wondering why Lee wasn't present. It's really crazy. And it's kind of annoying me that every time we see Lee, she only goes on dates with Marvin. It's so annoying. Why is she only going out on dates with Marvin? I don't get it. Like, every time we ever see Lee, it's with Marvin. She's already established that what he's into, she's not into. So why they keep pushing that issue? And somebody was arguing with me in the comment section on Instagram when they made the comment that they don't understand why Lee is on dates with Marvin when she's made it clear that she's not interested in his kinky business. And I was telling the person, well, the producers have a hand in who goes on dates with who. And that person was being really stubborn and making it and being very much like a viewer that only knows what viewers see, and they don't know the inner workings of the show. But from watching several episodes of Ready to Love and hearing several contestants speak on their experience behind the scenes, I am pretty confident that the producers are the ones that decide who goes on date with whom. It's not even something that is up for debate, it's a fact, right? And Janelle mentions it during her rant, and I'll insert the clip here if I find it.
Because we don't get to pick who we go out on a date with. Fun fact, you don't know who you're going out on a date with until you walk in the room. There was one time where I thought I was going to have a one-on-one date with someone, and it was a group date, and I'm like, come on now. You gotta be kidding me. There's dates that I walked into like, why y'all got me out on a date with this person?
But that just proves my point. You don't choose your dates. The producers choose your dates for the show. And when you're off the show, they don't allow you to meet up, right? Because incidents have happened with people meeting up outside of the cameras, things happening, then coming back onto the in front of the camera, and like there's missing pieces, and that's why they tell them don't interact. So they only do phone calls, right? So it is what it is. I don't need to argue with people, it's a fact. But let's move on. So we see Unique goes on a date with Marvin. They go on this cute picnic, and we see that whenever Unique is around Marvin, she lowers her head and she does this little cutesy thing where she's all innocent. And I don't know where she learned this from, because I've heard that, in magazines like Cosmopolitan, when they have these little cute little articles about how to how to attract a man. They always tell you look down, look up, do this doe eye and do this other thing. She looks as if she's getting her cues from magazines. She just always looks weird because she's always looking down and her eyes looking up, or to give that cutesy look. But anyways, they end up sharing a picnic outside, and they end up kissing. But it didn't end up going how I thought it would go, because I assumed Marvin would show more interest in Unique, but in this particular episode he showed less interest in Unique. So they were talking about their non-negotiables, right? And Unique, well, more so Marvin mentioned he wanted a boy. Okay, he has this dream of having this family and he wants a boy, right? And Unique didn't say she was opposed to having a boy. What she was saying was simply that she cannot determine what the sex of the baby is gonna be. So no woman can determine what the sex of the baby is gonna be. I feel like a lot of people feel like because a woman carries a baby that she determines everything to do with the baby, the looks, the height, the hair, which is stupid, right? Men determine the sex. So he's just talking out of his lip and not understanding that that is out of her control. Now, that's all she said. Now, he misinterpreted, unless there's a conversation we didn't see that was had. He misinterpreted what she was saying and assumed she didn't want to have kids at all. So he was like, okay, well, Unique is kind of not in my viewpoint at this point because she doesn't want children, which is not what she said. She simply said she cannot control whether she's gonna have a girl or boy. That's all she said. But anyways, that just proves to me that he doesn't like Unique and he doesn't really want anything with Unique, because a man that is intent on having something with you would take time to listen to what you're saying and ensure that what you're saying is what you are actually saying and not just something he thinks you're saying so he could use it as justification to jump out of the helicopter. You know what I'm saying? So it's clear that he doesn't like Unique. He said actually in the men's lounge that his strongest connection is Katarina, which is shocking to me, right? Because I never thought it was Katarina. But anyways, he said her. Now, let's move on. So then I'm speaking a bit out of, maybe it's not in the right order. So Maury had this impromptu date, and I think it was Herbert, Chris, Maury, these other men, then Jessica, Sierra, and Kyra, other women. So the purpose of this date is for them to come and improvise a scenario. So they grouped up with, each man is grouped up with a woman, and they're supposed to come on stage. They're given a scenario and they're supposed to act out how they're going to, maneuver that scenario. So we had Chris and Jessica, and I think the man said Chris caused the accident and caused Jessica to total the car or whatever. And he ended up putting it on her to decide what she will do, as opposed to being a man and taking the leadership role and doing that for her, considering you were the cause of the mayhem in the first place. And he felt like Jessica was being accusatory, and he was smiling it off and making it seem like, oh, it doesn't bother me. I just thought she was being a bit, I didn't know if she was acting or being honest. I feel like it's a turn off to him. And I feel like these are little signs that things are gonna get dim with Jessica and Chris. Because later on in the episode, we're gonna see Chris telling her, who are you? You don't know me. And I'm curious to know what sparks that. I'm absolutely curious. So anyways, that happened. And then we had Sierra and Herbert, which was really funny. Sierra is so funny. It was very light-hearted, extremely funny. She was talking about how she went to meet his parents and she wanted to sex him and go to the bathroom. And it was really funny. It was so funny. And then somebody was like, every time Sierra speaks with Herbert, it's always about some sexual conversation. well, according to what the producers want to highlight, that's all we see. But we cannot really judge whether they do have in-depth conversations. But from what we see, it does seem as if everything is very surface level with Sierra and Herbert. Herbert said he found some new aspects to Sierra that he wasn't expecting and that he likes it. So hopefully that's gonna put him in a good position with Sierra, because it's not wise to only have Janelle as your options. I mean, it's good for you to diversify, right? So let's see. The last but not least interaction was between Maury and Kyra, and it was extremely uncomfortable to watch. Clearly, Kyra is not attracted to Maury, and you could tell based on the way she was interacting during that thing they spoke on. She wanting a religious guy, and she doesn't think Maury is religious, even though Maury said he was. And she's asking Maury if he's healthy, because technically she was throwing a dig at Maury, trying to say that he's fat, because I think Maury said he wants somebody healthy. So she threw it back on him and asked, "Are you healthy?" Which I thought was a good little jab. But yeah, there was no chemistry there. He felt it and everyone felt it. It was really awkward, and I hope to never see it again. Now let's move on. After this happened, what else happened? I think, oh, then we had the boxing situation with, I think it was Quinton, Kyra, and Unique. Now with Unique, Quinton was basically saying that she has too many trauma issues that she needs to deal with. But my thing about Quinton is everybody has been through relationship trauma. So for you to say that, I wonder what it is that she's saying that's making these guys always say she needs to heal, she needs to heal, she needs to heal, because I don't see what she's done thus far on this show that makes me feel like she needs to heal, like any more than the other contestants need to heal. So I'm confused, and it just proves to me again that when someone is not interested in you, they will look for the most minuscule, surface level reason to reject you, right? And he was saying, oh, she needs to heal some more, whereas he's talking about he's healed, but he needs to test it out on someone. That's crazy to me, because if you're really healed, there's no need to test out nothing. You're healed, right? If you're not healed, that's the only reason why you'd think, oh, let me test it out, because you know there's a possibility for you to revert back to how you used to be. Because I feel like some people just say they're healed, but they're really not, because they've not been put in a situation to exercise, whether they've healed or not. But the way he said, oh, I want to test it in a new relationship, it just is giving me the next woman he's with is gonna be a crash dummy. It's gonna be a disaster. So he says very clearly, very openly, he's not interested in Unique. Unique is also not interested in Quinton based on what she was saying, because I feel like she was surprised that she ended up being on a date with him. She was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna make the best of it, is essentially what she was saying. Kyra now, she gives Kyra her time to talk. Kyra comes now, sits down and is like, do you like white women? I think you like white women. Immediately offends Quinton to the point where he really wants nothing to do with Kyra after the fact, right? He essentially says he's been with Latina women, and if he was not into black women, he would never be on this show, right? And that's the thing. I mean, you can be on the show and still not be into black women like that. I mean, they could still not be your number one pick, So, I mean, coming on this show doesn't really prove anything. But I understand that he felt really judged, and he was judged incorrectly. And according to what Janelle said, that whole rumor came about because Leanne said that she apparently went to a gym that Quinton goes to, and the only person he sees Quinton around is white women. And Janelle was like that could be his clients. I mean, he could be training his clients. What does that have to do with his dating preference? Which is a good point. And Tequila brought it to the women's lounge and made it this big thing. And I understand why Quinton would be extremely offended by it. Because how dare you make assumptions about me, and you came about with that assumption from everywhere but me. I never said that. So yeah, Kyra put herself out of the running for that situation. And what also kind of irritated me about that conversation is she was telling the women about, how I'm the closest thing to white personality wise. So clearly she puts whiteness on a pedestal for whatever reason. And I feel like she puts her blackness on the back burner, even to the point where she was speaking to Maury because the men deliberated and Kyra and Unique ended up on the elimination date. So she's speaking to Maury and she says something that very much turns me off, and I was taken aback by it. So Maury is talking to her and she's like, I think black issues is a problem. I don't identify that way. People judge me because of how I speak, because I speak proper, and all this nonsense she was saying. And she has black friends. That was the craziest conversation I've ever heard. This woman sounds like she's detached herself from being black. I feel like she really feels like she's a white woman because only white people say they have black friends. Like, if you're black, the assumption is you're gonna have black friends. Like, there's no need for you to say you have black friends. So for you to say that, it was crazy to me to hear her say that as a black woman, and to say that essentially the black culture and black issues, she has a problem with it. That's the craziest stuff I've ever heard. She sounds like a white lives matter type of person. No, she sounds like an all lives matter type of person. Somebody called her Candace Owens, and that is very much what she's giving. It's really weird. According to Janelle, that's not how she really is when she gets drunk, allegedly. I don't know. Okay, I was saying that maybe it's a caricature for the show, but that's just my own thoughts and feelings. So anyways, the men deliberated, and what ended up happening was, as I said, Unique and Kyra were placed on the block, and Unique ended up getting sent home, which to me doesn't shock me because beside Marvin, like literally nobody else is attracted to Unique. And everyone is saying that Unique looks just like Megan Good. And I didn't see it before. But the more I watch her face, the more I understand why they're saying she looks like Megan Good. It is the shape of her face. It is her lower face. Like her chin, her lips. That's what makes her look like Megan Good. And in that aspect, she does. But although she does look like Megan Good, she doesn't look like Megan Good, if you know what I'm saying. Because some people feel like because you say you look like somebody that you're equally as attractive as them. She's not. She might look like Megan Good, but she's not equally as attractive as Megan Good, if you understand what I'm saying. Somebody said in the comments, because she looks like Megan Good, she thought she would stay. No, I don't think that was her thought process at all. I think it's people projecting on her. She never said because she looked like Megan Good, she'll stay on the show. In fact, people would, if Megan Good did ever come on Ready to Love, all the guys would be eating at her feet, right? None of that happened for Unique. For some reason, the men were just not attracted to her. So, I think, do we have anything else that I missed? Did we see any of Chris this episode? I don't even think so. Christopher, sorry. People are saying, I looked at Christopher's page, And he's definitely an actor. I think he's been on a couple of shows, and that could possibly be why he's on Ready to Love, because I do think that they do come up with jobs to give these people, like fake jobs, like The Bachelorette and The Bachelor does it as well. They'll give you a past job, they'll give you some funny job, they'll make up a job for you. So that's not shocking. I mean, the black community makes it out to be something big, but really it just is what it is. It's a show and it's not real. But anyways, you guys, let me know if you agree with what I've said. Like, subscribe, and see you guys next time. Bye bye.